What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
Yeah, you're the host again. I get it. It's fine.
I think there is like two. There are two people over on the Patreon who are currently just pulling levers.
Yeah, Dola and Emily have this like weird like monopoly on the voting system at the Moat, and it's sort of like whatever they feel. I think at the moment there is one in each camp.
Oh, okay.
So they're sort of canceling each other out, and as long as that's the case, everyone else's votes actually account for what they should account for.
Okay. As a reminder, we do have a tier over on Patreon for patreon.com/popcornculture where you can purchase 100 votes to help determine each week's hostmanship. Otherwise, any of the other tiers just give you a single vote towards that same discussion. And for the longest time, it has been largely irrelevant. And here lately, it's just been pure chaos.
It has been pure chaos over here. I will say, though, if you do sign up at the $25 tier, that's the merch tier, where you get the cool exclusive merch, which admittedly, we have been a little behind on because like COVID has caused slowdown productions basically everywhere. However, we have wonderful news on that front because the Moleskine notebooks, which I think are the most recent
item. The most recent
item are actually already here and should already be on their way to you. So you might have them already by the time you're listening to this if you're a Patreon at the exclusive if you're a patron at the exclusive merch tier. And we received extra good news this week that the vinyl records at long last have been pressed and are on their way to us. So those should be getting shipped out next week.
I know, and I am so excited about this because we announced these for Q4 of 2021, meaning we would have first started talking about them like circa October 1st, 2021, which means that we are like a mere like 3 weeks away from it having been a full year since idea conception.
It's
has been there, and now we're going to come in just under the wire.
The production cycle has been so frustrating because it like everything was all systems go right out of the gate, and then we just like train wrecked, and that was unbearable. So thank you everyone for your patience. First of all,
the thing is too is that it's like, I mean, this is happening just all sorts of everywhere. Like we sort of talked a little bit about how when we were having the vinyl records produced, we ran into this like very unusual problem, which was that Adele had purchased 1 million vinyl records for her latest album, which basically bought up like all of the inventory of every single vinyl record manufacturer like in the United States or something. I mean, it
wasn't like, oh yeah, 1 million, like one giant record printing company can handle that volume, right? I was like, actually, no, you're probably going to need to outsource like several others. And by several others, I meant like all of them.
Yes.
And by all of them, it's like, maybe that's not actually that many places.
Oh, I know. Yeah. So we've run into a situation with that. I know that when we were printing our hoodies, I think it was Q3 of last year, which were the lithograph hoodies that had like an entire episode of like text on it. Those were in production when that manufacturer got like a massive order from, I think it was Budweiser. And so they went in and like took over a massive amount of it. So this is just it, and it's happened to us through, it seems like everything we come to on like Popcorn Culture exclusive merch ends up just apparently being a thing elsewhere.
So we've got our finger on the pulse, is what you're saying.
On the pulse.
You know what else happened was with the playing cards, which are also motion is happening there as well. I feel like we had all these stalls and now everything's like converging at once.
I know, yeah. So our office right now is like shipping headquarters. There are boxes and like containers and tape and shipping labels. It's just like Kat and Ethan came in this morning and they were like, I'm sore.
I know, like shout out to Kat and Ethan who have become like logistics experts overnight, shipping out all of the journals and the records and stuff. So well done to you guys. The thing that got in the way with the playing cards was Lord of the Rings, who I believe were prepping for their new show, The Rings of Power.
Yes, and so they were working. They ended up doing a collaboration with the King's Wild Project. Who was slated, and like we had like everything all in order to like do it, and they were like, hey, well, so Lord of the Rings, and it was like,
oh yeah, the most expensive production ever made. Okay,
you mean the TV show that cost $1 billion with a
billion
B?
with the B dollars? Have you watched it?
I have not watched it.
You have
yet.
not watched
I
it?
have not watched.
Okay.
But I'm dying to know what more than $999 million worth of money can make.
I mean, I watched the first episode last night.
Okay.
Me and Beth did. Yeah, we got this big a big list of things we're sort of working through. We finally finished Ozark, which I sort of felt was this we started it when we didn't have anything to watch, and then we were so into it, and it's this show ended a while ago, but it's also a roadblock from watching everything else because we're so into it.
Yep.
And then the backlog filled up, so now we've got a bunch of shows we're watching. But we started Rings of Power last night, which only has 2 episodes out right now. We watched the first episode last night, and I have to say cinematically, it is awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it is.
That's what you wouldn't expect anything less from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and if you're going to spend $1 billion on it, and that's going to be public information, and the original movies, which were made 20 plus years ago, were as amazing and cinematic as they were, and changed everything. You better come to play. And so visually, extremely stunning all around.
Okay,
I would say. Plot, I would say. At least for the first episode, they are getting their butts whooped by House of the Dragon, which is the entire time we're watching House of the Dragon, I'm just oh my god, oh wow, yeah, oh, and then what's gonna happen? I'm me and Beth are so engaged with that show, and this was just yeah, man, okay, there's some elf politics happening. Okay, this guy likes that girl, or yeah, all right, yeah. Well, I guess I'll probably watch the next one.
You know what, though? It feels very Lord of the Rings for the story to sort of progress slowly in a way that has very strong ultimate payoff and longevity, staying power in terms of it will be good, it will take you time to get there, but it will also be immersive, and basically 50 years from now you can still watch it and people will be they made this 50 years ago?
That there's no doubt about that. Actually, I remember thinking, me and Beth watched that. Man, boy, it's what a random story. The last time we watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy was probably 4 or 5 years ago. But even when they show the title card, I feel it's this very interesting effect they had, because the title card looks like it's out of the 70s or something.
Sure.
And it's but actually they made this in the 2000s. So it's in a weird way they did this cool thing where, because at least in the opening, Fellowship of the Ring title card or whatever, it's boy, this looks like it was made even further back in time, which then in your mind makes you think boy, it looks even better for when they made it.
Oh, I know. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But so the other thing I was going to say that I think is very interesting about this is that there's no doubt about it that it's kind of been this fantasy race for Rings of Power versus oh my gosh,
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon
versus what if Harry was in Slytherin?
Oh yes, right. No, I hear that there's this little ragtag group out of Roanoke, Virginia, that's currently rewriting the Harry Potter books as if Harry was in Slytherin, and it has just been a thrilling adventure.
The thrill, yeah. Oh my gosh, the twists never stop.
They just keep coming,
right? Right. But honestly, it is embarrassing for Warner Brothers that is the competition right now. You know what I mean? Listen, look here, Warner Brothers. Okay, we can have a chat. Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings are the other 2 biggest fantasy properties in the world, and they are competing right now on streaming with shows nobody asked for. Okay, look, everyone's asking you to make a Harry Potter show, and you're not even in the game right now.
Yeah, it's
what are you doing?
There is no project slated. There is no casting. It's what is going on? How is this even I am convinced that it's a coup at this point in time. Tinfoil hat, everybody, place them on your foreheads. I am absolutely convinced that the world is absolutely they're aware of the noise. And it's one of these things where it's we just have to for some reason they have to wait. A certain amount of time.
There's got to be a one sentence and one contract somewhere that's this is the date, and then things can happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that date is.
I mean, it is absolutely, it's just it's bonkers, but it's also the more time goes on, the closer I feel we are to it. So maybe it's one of those things where it's we're only 3 to 4 years out from the announcement of the show that will be coming in 2 to 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
What if Harry was in Slytherin coming to whatever streaming service you want.
I have thought about this a lot, though, because I'd be curious to know whether or not people would find this to be enjoyable. And it is literally the exact premise that we've been enacting, which is like taking the narrative as you know it and placing Harry and Slytherin instead and like just watching it unfold.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that you and I have discovered as we've been going through the Harry Potter series in this way, and of course, like, we're not here to write full-blown, I mean, it's fan fiction, but like it's not full-blown fan fiction where we're like taking on such creative liberties as to throw the characters into situations that have never existed
Yeah, we're not
before.
like making up new scenarios for them, more or less. Like the way I at least especially for the first 6 books, the way it's been is almost more like we're just sort of going through and like discovering what would happen.
Yeah,
we're not like trying to steer the story anywhere. Book 7, I will say, we've been working on it a lot. Definitely took the most liberties with this one, but that's because book 7 happens away from Hogwarts. And so like it is the book where Harry himself and Ron and Hermione have to make so many, like, they make action happen
right
way more often than the other 6 books.
And that was exactly what I was going to say, is like one of the things that's been so interesting about like discovering this story, and I think that's the perfect way to phrase it, is that like it's like Harry, the story really happens to Harry. Like he definitely shows initiative and like, you know, he goes through the trapdoor in year 1 and everything. Like he's definitely like, he shoulders the responsibility that he knows has been like placed upon him, but so much of the stuff that is going to happen is always going to happen
right.
the way that it happens, because Harry's house at school doesn't really like impact those inevitabilities.
Right.
And so it's been, I guess my question is, to go back to my original thought here, is like, what, because I've wondered on so many occasions, like even when the Harry Potter movies were coming out, and I do love them, and they're like aspects of the movies that I think like that they just absolutely got right, and like, you know, it's just there's no way to imagine anybody but Maggie Smith playing McGonagall, and you know, it's sort of like my constant argument. But at the same rate, if they were to give us like, let's say they were going to say like, hey, Harry Potter's getting $1 billion show, they're going to remake the entire series, it's going to be 7 seasons, each episode will be like a chapter fully fleshed out.
Right.
Like they're gonna do like every single detail, like down to the wire and stuff. It's like, my question is like, do you want that product? And for the longest time, I would have said that I did. Like that's exactly what I wanted, was just like the books perfectly illustrated in live action form. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like it would be so interesting to take that narrative in I guess the manner that we've been doing it here lately. And maybe it's just because it's like, and again, it goes back to that we're discovering the story, but it's like, it's been really, really fun for me to actually go back through the Harry Potter story and like get to experience it for the first time again, but slightly differently.
Yes,
you know
I
what
agree.
I mean?
It really, like, it's sort of the same effect that I feel like The Force Awakens had on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can never go back and watch A New Hope for the first time again.
Right.
But you can make it a Star Wars movie that is really similar and captures a lot of the nostalgia and hits a lot of the same beats, but also changes some things, and still like it's still that is still my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. It's like, you know, would this be fun as a way to sort of like get to experience the story of Harry Potter without maybe having that, like, because this is the problem, is that, like, you know, you go into these fantasy worlds, you make the world inside of your head, you picture things the way that you picture things, and then if the filmmakers do it differently, it's kind of like, it doesn't mean that the filmmakers did it poorly, it just means that they took an interpretation in a different direction than you had the interpretation in your head, and then as a result it feels jarring.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, well, I never really pictured Scrimgeour looking like that,
right?
You know, and it's like, but so now, like, I can't really, because he's supposed to look like a lion, you know,
yeah.
like that, and it's like, yeah, I mean, he's got long hair, but like,
yeah.
I don't know, like, you know, I mean, you know, and so then I'm thrown, then I'm taken out of it, and so it's almost like if you can if you can have so many of the same beats, like so many of the same places, so many of the same like inevitabilities, because the inevitabilities are what they are. Harry is still going to always, find himself in the Triwizard Tournament,
right?
For example, and
it's like it it doesn't, the plot is in motion before Harry gets to Hogwarts, right? Like, no matter what house he goes into, Voldemort's already trying to steal that stone.
Right.
That's happening whether or not Harry even started going to Hogwarts that year. It's really just bad timing for him.
I know, yeah. Voldemort, terrible planner. I mean, we've said it.
Yeah.
We've said it for years. He's not particularly great at putting together, especially the fact that he's always like, hey, exams are over. Feels like a good time to attack.
Feels like a good time. It's spring again.
Spring is in the air.
Yeah.
And you know what Voldemort loves? Spring.
Time to attack Harry.
Just a nice light rain and sort of that humid, misty air.
Who wants to fight in the snow? Not me, not the Dark Lord.
Nobody wants to fight in the snow.
The Dark Lord likes flowers.
Well, you know what? And he is so heavily associated with snakes, and snakes are reptiles, and reptiles are cold-blooded, meaning, if so facto, Voldemort loves spring.
Voldemort loves spring and hibernates in the winter, probably. There you go. We've just used biology to figure out Voldemort's whole annual structure of attack.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the real reason.
That's the real reason.
He's hibernating all winter.
Voldemort's cold-blooded. He's really bad in the winter.
Right.
Really bad seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
That's what seasonal affective disorder is. I don't feel bad for Voldemort. I was just given the acronym.
Right. Yeah. SAD.
Just to be absolutely crystal clear.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jay, so moving on from that topic, we can have a quick transition. Boom! So last weekend was Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day.
Does anybody else confuse Labor Day and Memorial Day weekend?
Oh.
Like they end cap the summer.
Yeah.
Like is this
nonstop? Always.
We could have had Memorial Day weekend last week, or it could have been Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. You'd think, because I'm married to a teacher, that this would be like, normally Labor Day is like often marks the beginning of the school year.
Oh yeah.
That
right.
I would just have this locked and loaded, but I don't.
Yeah.
Like seriously, one of my biggest weaknesses, Ben, calendars.
Yeah. That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
Because you're such a particularly organized person.
You'd think I'd be better at it. And once upon a time, when I worked at the concert venue, I had you lived by the calendar, like what show is this week? And there was like this very routine pattern to like, okay, it's Thursday, we're sending out a pre-sale today, and then Friday everything will go on Saturday, everything's going to go on the website, and then tonight we'll have an event. And, it was like you had to know when everything was, and for like a while, like I had it all mapped out. I could tell you all the time when Fridays were, especially.
Oh yeah.
And then it was very easy to work around the other dates, But yeah, since then, no, calendars, I can't do it. I'm not good at them. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, this is. I mean, I'm also like you. I mean, but I'm not organized on the best of days anyway. But like I've never been able to figure out Kat here in office will go over to her computer and her inbox on her email has nothing, whereas like mine has many. It has many things.
Man, mine is always so cluttered because I'm constantly bidding on Pokemon cards. I'm trying to lowball tons of Pokemon cards on eBay.
Yeah.
And so I'll just go through often there'll be I'm trying to get the gold energy cards because those are timeless. You can always use energy cards. You got to use them all the time.
Right.
If you get 12 of each, you're just done. You just have your energy cards and they look great in every deck forever.
It's a quality investment.
Yeah. They typically the only thing that seems to affect the price of golden energy cards on eBay is what decks are most popular at the moment. So what I'm trying to do right now is while Metal and Fire and Leaf all sort of suck.
Oh yeah.
Just go ahead and scoop those up. But I'm still not willing to spend that much on it. So I'll just I'll put in $9 to $10 bids on stuff 4 days out and just hope maybe no one notices.
Sure.
And you know what? Every now and then I hit it. But I'll go through once a week and just sort of be okay, I'll make 5 or 6 bids of $10 thinking most of them will fail, which they do. And then eBay will notify you all the time as soon as someone outbids you or something, and it's just half my email inbox is just this notifications.
Just eBay saying hey, you've been outbid.
Basically.
Yeah.
Or we've received your bid, or you won, or pay now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so and so this is my problem.
Anyway.
So take all that information, email, lack of organization and folders and stuff like that, and then apply that to my calendar where I have 6 calendars, many of which I feel like I've accidentally created, or at some point in time I was I'm gonna finally learn how to make an aquariums based calendar just for my aquarium related appointments and such, and then it's everything just sort of falls under the same like purple color, like everything on my calendar is just purple, and so like nothing. It's like, are these supposed to be different?
When everything's purple, nothing is.
Are other people being notified of my haircuts on Thursday? I'm like, oh man, I don't even know what I'm doing with this. So I should probably just go and like take like a Skillshare course or something like that on like how to calendars.
Yeah. Guys, today's episode is brought to you by lynda.com. Did you know they'll teach you about calendars?
Yeah.
Did you know there's like 30 days in like every month for the most part, except for one?
Approximately.
There's
also 31 and some.
Yeah. But in all the days that have 31, there's also 30 days.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. See, this is the sort of things you learn at calendar school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is why I need to go.
Exactly. See?
I don't have it down. But I'm so good at, I don't even know if I'm good at fooling people, but I have here at the office, we have like this TV that is like our like public calendar for everybody. So that, like, we know like if we do have like a brand deal or like what video goes up, or is this like a Jay versus Ben week, or all the rest of that stuff. And so I have the same one at my house, and so whenever people come over and there is like the like Ben haircut on Thursday at like 9:30, I do think it gives the illusion that I have my stuff together.
Yeah.
Which I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I'll stop assuming that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
I just want to be crystal clear about how much my stuff is together, which is to say, not at all.
Not at all.
Not
Right.
at
It's
all.
just scattered.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Labor
Day or Memorial Day. No, it's Labor Day. This was a interesting weekend. I thought you had a very good note in our show notes, the way that you phrased this. Hang on, let's see here. Having fun is a lot of work sometimes.
Boy, it sure is.
Yeah, you know it sure is. This happens to me, and I think that I'm like especially guilty of this particular thing, which is that like just about wherever I go on vacation, or like when we go do like tailgating, which we're going to be doing this weekend at Virginia Tech football game.
Yep.
I have like this yearning desire to make sure that I have just absolutely everything that I want once I get there. So like I'll bring like this massive setup of materials and supplies and toys and games and, like inflatables and I don't know, whatever. And, like you can get to like a tailgate, for example, and like you're there for 3 hours before the game starts, or I'm sure plenty of people right now like, you only get there 3 hours before the game.
Like, I'm there right now.
Yeah, it's not for 2 days.
Not for 2 days, bro. I got my trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, all set up and everything. But so like, I would roll up, because we used to have season tickets, so like roll up at like a Tech game, and it'd be like, all right, 3 hours till game time, let's start setting up. And that would involve like setting up the tailgating tent and bringing out like multitudes of tables and generators and like a crock pot and a grill and,
right.
Like
how much can we cram into these 3 hours?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, get the cornhole boards out. Let's set up a game of Cube. Like, we're going to have just anything you could ever think. If you come to our tailgate for approximately 3 hours to, an hour and 30 minutes, we've got it all.
Yeah.
I've brought like margarita machines before.
Right. Yeah.
Just like the whole nine. And then like immediately what happens is that it's like, all right, guys, time to get all of our stuff together for game time. Who's ready to go? And then I'm like frantically like all shoving it into the back of my truck. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, now we got to pack up. And I'm like, oh, someone's going to steal my generators. Like I probably should have brought a bike lock. And, of course I don't have one. So then
right.
I'm like, I don't know. And it ends up being like just this like total frantic thing, because then even on the beginning and end of the day, I spend 2 hours like loading the car.
Loading everything up, then unloading everything. It's like, there's this definite disparity between like the amount of time you have to tailgate versus the amount of stuff you brought to tailgate.
Yeah.
You're right. Like it doesn't feel unlikely that we've brought like a weekend's worth of fun to a 3 hour activity.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But like it feels wrong not to have each and every one of those things
right
at these events. Like I feel like I'm going to be like letting myself down by not bringing them. So
it's like, well, I've got them. Like I have these cornhole boards specifically for tailgating, and we're going tailgating, so I'm bringing them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so same thing last weekend. We're doing like Labor Day weekend, and we get there, and it's like I have like the boat that I was gifted by our grandfather, and as a result, naturally I have like lots of things that the boat can pull, that we get to use like 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But like so you get there, and I remember like we woke up the first morning, and me and you and Dad went out into like the driveway, and we're just out there for probably a good like 2 hours, just literally inflating stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think throughout the course of the weekend, we ended up not using probably 60% of those objects.
Yeah. There was, I know we did this big yellow, like drag behind the boat duck, which I was so excited about. And then, no, we never ended up using it, which was a bummer.
I know, because like we've got this whole, I was like, this is going to be so perfect. Like we have like the duck in a cup thing. Like, we're so into like our duck thing. And it was like the first time I ever got to fill it up, and it looked awesome. It's got like sunglasses like baked into its face.
Yeah.
It's a party duck.
Mm-hmm. It is a party duck.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think Dad too was also like, I think he thought it was cool. He was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then we just never got to go and use it. And so then the weekend ends, and you find yourself in that position of like, oh man, now it's all down by the water, and it's all wet, and I need to deflate it and walk it up a hill.
Right. And it's like because it's wet, it's like you have to pack it right now because you are about to leave. But the fact that it's wet means that when you get home, it's not just that you're going to have to unload it. So you're going to have to like unload it, unfold it, let it dry, refold it, then store it.
Yeah. Which is pretty much exactly, what happened. It's like if you go under like my pergola space at my house in my backyard, I've just got like everything like draped over it. So it's like, it looks like a little, carnival of inflatables back there. But so it's a lot. It's a lot of work to have fun.
Yeah. It's just this like, it's like you're going to the lake and you got a boat and you want to do the things you're going to do with the boat, and you're going to be hanging out down by the water. But then it's like, it's like you want to be so prepared for all that fun. And then you've also just got you've got like kids.
Oh yeah.
It's like every child in our family is under 5 years old, which means that like, even though like I'm pretty comfortable with Luke being in the water with his little swimmies, and even the twins are pretty good at like swimming around and stuff. It's like, you can't just be like, yeah, all right, just go jump in the lake, and like, I'm going to sit here and read and not pay attention to you.
Exactly.
It's like, like you definitely need active eyes on every child who's within 5 feet of the water.
Yeah, pretty much at all times in all ways. Yeah. So that's that. And this is my worry and concern, is that like I'm going to have like brought all of the necessary stuff when they were too young to properly use it. I'm going to become jaded in my ways, because I'm going to be like, you know what? Every year I bring all this stuff and none of it ever gets used.
None of it ever gets used.
Now I'm done with it, and I'm gonna show up at the lake in like 8 years when they're all like, I want to go tubing, and it'd be like, well, too bad. All I brought was a book.
Yeah, that's right. Just jump in the water. All right.
Have fun.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That was good enough for you 5 years ago.
Right. I couldn't even get you to do that then. Yeah. Oh man. So
I had such a tiny moment like this yesterday.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most like it's like, it's only lightly comparable, but it was so frustrating to me. But oftentimes if Beth has had like an exceptionally like stressful or busy day at the house, and she's not like making dinner or anything, she'll just, I'll pick something up on the way home. And there's always this moment when I get to wherever I'm picking up food from, where I have to get out of the car, and I'm like, normally all you do is walk in, pick up the bag, walk right back out. Right? But sometimes you have to wait for the food. And so every time I park, I like look down at my phone and I'm like, do I want to go through the process of like unhooking this up from the car, putting it in my pocket, because then when I get back in, I'm going to do this whole thing again, which is also just a minor inconvenience anyway.
Sure.
But I'm like, but if I just leave it in here, it'll be so much faster and whatever. But then I was like, should I leave it in the car? What if someone steals it? And I'm like, no one's going to steal your phone out of your car while you're gone for 30 seconds. What are you afraid of here? But so anyway, every time I always end up bringing my phone in case like I have to wait for the food and I just want to like look at my phone or something. And it's always just right there. And then I have to go through the whole hassle of replugging everything in and finding a spot for everything. Yesterday, of course, the first time I'm like, you know what? It never happens. I'm leaving my phone in the car. Get in there, I have to wait for like 10 minutes.
Oh,
so
man.
annoying. Of course. It's always the one time. That's the rule. It's like there's no such thing as being prepared, because the only time it's going to happen is when you're not.
It's exactly like when you're waiting on somebody to show up, and you're waiting. You finally pull your phone out to call them, and then they come like rolling into the parking lot, and you're like,
oh.
No, of course.
Yep.
The just noticeable difference. Okay, so in other news, though, you have some other big stuff that's happening in your family life right now, speaking of them, which is that Luke and Nick and Nate have all started preschool.
They have all started preschool. So Luke has he's been doing preschool for like a little while now, but it's always been like 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this year, this fall, I guess, he is like officially starting his like 5 days a week going to preschool for it's still just like 2 hours in the morning, or something. So it's not like a super long trip every single day. So there's that, and then the twins are starting for their first time. They're only going 2 days a week, and thankfully it's like all the exact same time and same place and stuff like that. So
you just drop them all off.
Just drop them all off. Drop them all off.
One fell swoop.
One fell swoop. Yeah, very good. So Beth's gonna get some like free mornings here. So good for her.
Oh
That's very
man,
exciting.
I bet this is like a huge
yeah,
oh man,
huge level up for her amount of free time in the day. So that's all cool. But it's been like I feel like I keep having this weird like emotional response specifically to Luke going to like a 5 day a week school situation. It's like he's been going to preschool for a while. So like, it's like, oh, it's your first day of preschool. Like, oh my God, so exciting and stuff. It's like he's going back. It's like, yeah, you've been to preschool before. Like, okay, cool, good.
Right,
And
yeah.
you know the drill for the most part. But like the fact that it's 5 days a week, and like this week, like because it's like it's the week after Labor Day, and they're like the first day was orientation, and like then so really it's just like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the first week's just been 3 days.
Okay.
Next week will be the first 5 days in a row that he goes, and it's like I feel like I'm having this weird like emotional reaction to it, not because like oh he's like old enough to go to school, but because like you'll be there 5 days a week, and that's like regular school. And it's like that to me feels so much like this is like the first week of how things will be until you're 18,
Oh my gosh, I know. Yeah,
and
that's like it's so interesting. Like at some point in time, this will have been his reality for so much longer.
Yeah.
than it wasn't.
And it's like I don't. It's like it's preschool, so and it's only 2 hours, so mostly all they do is like. Practice handwriting or coloring or going, some of that's, going to the gym and playing in recess or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
or like eating a snack. So it's like for the most part, it's just playing,
right.
For, it's like constructive playing, I suppose. So it's not really like school or anything. And it's like you want I think ideal parent situation is that your kids are just like they really enjoy going to school and they do all their work and they excel and they get good grades.
Right.
Right. Like that's pie in the sky. But that's no child's relationship with. Maybe not like plenty of kids do very good at school. And excel and get good grades and stuff.
Sure.
But like,
sure. We even did like reasonably fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were pretty good students as well. But like, I feel like when I look back, especially at like high school, middle school, it's just like, I often feel like it was like it was so much work. Like I don't like fondly remember going to school in the morning or something. Like there were plenty of really good things. Like obviously like all the extracurriculars we did, like cross country and soccer and swimming and basketball and all that stuff. Like all the stuff around it is good. But like the act of going, it's like such a slog and all the homework. And I'm just like right now, I will say that all three of them have been so great about it. Like they walk in, they're excited, they come home. Luke has been like so like happy coming home from school every day, and I'm like I'm so happy that he's happy to be going. And I feel like I'm having this internal argument with myself, but like no, but like school is boring and not fun, and like I'm encouraging him to be happy about something that I actively know is not going to be fun.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is an interesting one where it's kind of like do you feel like it's almost like you were not properly like preparing him? It's like, oh no, you're under this illusion that school is like a ridiculously fun thing, it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks one day.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, am I like trying to sell you on this idea that school is fun? Like which feels like I'm selling you a lie.
Sure.
Which like right now it's not a lie. That's true. It's just and it's very gradually grows into where it's mostly just work and study and homework and stuff. And, like even like kindergarten, first grade or, second grade, not really that bad.
Here's the thing,
or anything.
I've always been curious if this is like a known part of the psychology of how to communicate the growing responsibilities that you have as like a student, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, or whatever. But like every single year of my life growing up, going to school, like when you were in kindergarten, like the teacher would say, like, when you're in first grade next year, they are not going to allow stuff like this. Okay. You know, then you get to first grade, and they're like, when you get to second grade, no way. If your name and date's not in the top right corner of this, they're just going to throw it right in the trash. You know, and it was just like, it was like every year. And then like, you get to high school, and they sort of keep, like talk about like, you know, what, like when you get in college, like this is not going to fly. And like when you get in college, like when you get in your 202 classes, you know, all the way up. And then you're finally like at the precipice of education. You're like in your capstone course. And even then the teachers, I feel like, were like, out in the real world, this is not going to be okay. And it's like, then you get to the real world, and it's like, once you get to the real world, you kind of feel like you realize like everybody's a little bit making it up as they go.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like, oh, huh.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just my experience, and everybody else got to the real world and was like, whoa.
I've seen like a bunch of TikToks about this where like it'll also be like me in engineering school, and it'll be like the professor being like, I'm sorry you didn't provide all of these proofs here and all of your theorems here and all these equations. Like you need to show all your work. And it's like, yeah, but like all of that, like these are all correct because this, and it'll be like, I'm afraid this is like garbage. And then it'll be like cut to like me at my engineering job now, and it'll be like, yeah, I put all these proofs and equations and like all the things. And they're like, yeah, okay, that's it's kind of a lot of extra work. This is fine. Just yeah, thanks, but yeah.
right. Yeah. It's like at some point in time, everything changes, and you get out of the like theoretical world and into the
right. And it's just such a weird thing. It's like it's like you should know all the things that are allowing you to do the things. Like you need to know all the stuff behind it. But it's like also if once you know all that stuff, and then you can just use it to just know, then it's like I don't know.
Right. No. Well, this is an interesting one too, because like I call it toxic idealism.
Idealism
is like my phrase for this, and it's like I think that toxic idealism is like a real thing, because people will sort of like mount arguments. They're like it's almost as if like in a perfect world, this is like what things would be like. And they sort of like compare and contrast reality with like this idea of perfection. And I feel like it is so much more acceptable than like literally the exact same thing when applied to like an individual, which is comparing yourself to being a perfect version of yourself, which is to say like, you know, largely not attainable. And, you know, to fault yourself for not being perfect, like nobody will ever fault you for that,
right?
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then I do think that this is like the case, like with the engineering student who's got like the professor that's going through there, and it's like, well, in an ideal world, you would prove all of your work by this and this and this and this, and it's like, yeah, but it's not an ideal world.
Yeah, it's not an ideal world, and that's not going to be needed in the real world. So
right. Well, and I don't mean for that to sound pessimistic or anything like that. Like it's not like a doom and gloom type of sentiment. It's just like I do think that this happens a little bit. Like we all have so much time maybe at this point to like think about what perfect would look like, and then being upset that it's not like that. And I'm like, we don't apply those same standards to ourselves. In fact, we encourage not applying those standards to ourselves.
Right.
And probably there's something to be said for like taking that same logic and then applying it to everything.
Yeah. Okay. So I was sort of going down one of the, I've thought about this before, where like, I feel like there is this like weird association with the idea of being like cynical or pessimistic, and also being like a realist versus being like optimistic and being naive.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
Right. Like as if this is those are the only options. Either you can be like negative about anything because you're so real about it, or you can be like bright about everything because you just don't know.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Like the only real options are like be like accept the world as it is and be unhappy, or falsely believe things are better than they are because you're not being realistic about it.
Right. And the thing is that you can't probably even be absolutely either of those two camps, in the same way that like people, this happens all the time with extroverts versus introverts, where people are like, well, I'm an introvert, so, and it's like an introvert can still go out with their friends and have a great time and source energy from that experience, but it might mean that like there are other circumstances where it weighs on them more.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, to me, the difference between introverts and extroverts has nothing to, it's like, it's all just about, where you get energy from. And it's just like, it doesn't mean introverts don't like going to parties. It just means it's going to wear them out. Whereas if they stayed at home, they might feel energized.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean they don't enjoy going out.
Yeah, exactly. To the party. Yeah.
Right. It's like that's, I feel like that's wrong. But so anyway, I feel like that often it seems to be like the presented or like the accepted view. And I'm just, I just don't
like
think,
cynical or naive.
like cynical or naive. And I'm just like I don't see and when I think about it, I'm like, I just don't accept that. Like, I think it is extremely possible to be like an optimistic realist.
Sure.
Like I feel like that's how I would describe myself. Like, I normally just assume my belief is that things are going to work out. Things are going to be okay. Like, this is going to be good. But I also feel like I don't like just ignore the reality of things. I feel like I normally have a pretty good grasp of how things are. And like, I still think I don't know.
No, it's definitely true. And like, cause I would say that, let's see, what would be how I am, like, maybe, I don't even know, optimistically cynical? Is that at all possible? Like, I feel like I tend to not think like doom and gloom, but I also do think everything is going to go wrong, if that makes sense. Like, I tend to think like, if something seems a little bad, that all you're seeing is like the tip of the iceberg and there's like a lot bad below it. Like, you and I were talking about like an email exchange that had happened right before we got on the pop today. And I think your reaction was like, it's just a misunderstanding. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, it's no big deal. And I was like, I don't know. We should probably restructure everything.
Right.
I think it's probably time to like move some massive levers. And so like, obviously this is one of those where it's like, it's a question I keep asking myself lately, which is like, we've talked about the idea before that like, I'm trying to think of how to like phrase it here. It's kind of like, are you ever actually completely in the right? Like, because you're at the center of your own universe, but like, meaning that from your perspective, you're typically in the right, because I mean, I can't even people who are doing things that others might largely agree to be wrong are typically operating under the assumption that they're doing the right thing, even if what they're doing is awful.
Right. There's very few Voldemorts out there who are like, I'm doing this because it's bad.
Nobody, or not nobody, but I would be willing to bet that there is a very small percentage of people who are knowingly doing the wrong things.
Right.
And so it's kind of like the thought that you could be the villain of someone else's story. That was like one of those like there is probably somebody from high school who, for me, there is like, like a girl in high school who like our family would know like left a little bit of like a scar on me, in terms of just like was very difficult and was just, I don't know, caused a lot of basic trust issues at that age and stuff like that. And so it's like, from my perspective, it's like she was like the villain of like my high school love life or whatever. But it's also like, am I the villain of someone else's high school love life? Like,
right.
Like, is there like a family somewhere who's like, oh my gosh, then when that Carlin kid showed up.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think I do know who you're talking about. And it's like, yeah, this like all of my memories of like, she made your life very difficult. But like, I believe in present day, she's just like, married and has a kid and is doing okay. And it's just like,
of course.
Yes. It's like, I'm sure she has a group of friends and they're all just like, yeah, you're great. And it's just like, yeah, no one in her family is gonna think like, yeah, you were like, I don't know, like you're a bad person. It's like the people, it's like that's not true.
For what it's worth, I do not think she's a bad person.
Yeah,
but like, no, it is one of those things where it's like and this is like one where I think it has taken me time to realize this, but it is one of those where it's like she is just sort of like permanently locked into my brain as the person she was in high school.
Right.
But then like there's also that part of me it's like, well, I would hate it if anybody held me to who I was in high school.
I do this like
I've grown up since then.
I know.
Like I've learned lessons. Like
I know. I feel like I do this all the time. I'm like in my brain, I'm like like as if this is how like people still remember me, or like if I ran into someone, like we may as well just be right back there in like 11th grade or something. That would be the continued social structure between us.
Yes,
It's just like,
exactly.
Whatever our relationship was then is how we probably would act now. And it's like, that's not true. It's like it's like the problem is that on the occasions where I've run into people who were from high school, it's like that immediately breaks down as soon as you say hello, and it's just like, oh yeah, what are you doing now? How's life or whatever? But it's like it doesn't stop me from operating day to day as if that still might be true.
Yes, yeah,
You know?
exactly. I forget how we got here, but the question that I keep asking myself though, is situations like this where it's like. So like me and you having the argument, or not an argument, it was just us talking about this like email, and like you saying like it's miscommunication, me thinking it's like a deep-seated problem. It's like it's like it is entirely possible that you are like 78% correct and I am 22% correct.
Right? Yeah. It's not like someone's 100% correct and the other one's dead wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like there's a like whenever a disagreement happens, it's like there's a little bit of substance to both sides, no matter what.
Right.
Like someone might be like obviously more in the generally accepted code of ethics, morally right column, but like the other person has a reason for like what has like led them to.
Yeah, what they're thinking,
their
interpretation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like well, there could be a little bit. So probably what it comes down to is it's like this is probably one of those where I think you're 78% right and I think I'm 22% right, and that probably means that like everything's okay and it's just a miscommunication.
Sure.
For the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, I mean, it all just comes down to what your own personal experiences are like. I feel like so often, I don't know, then it's just like a way that it's like, is it how you constantly interact with the world? Because like this is almost always my like assumption, like out of the gate is like, it's probably okay. And then like I pretty much always operate under that assumption out of the gate. And like, I don't know if it's like because I treat stuff like that, it ends up being okay. Whereas if you treat stuff like this is probably the worst, and then you go and interact with the problem, and it's like then it becomes bad, or like I don't know if it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of thing.
Yeah,
or,
I'm finding myself walking into the exact mental trap that we have literally just discussed, which is to say that like I think that I fear the worst all the time because in my mind, worst case scenario is being like potentially blindsided by a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am, and it's funny because like, as we were discussing it and like just sort of in the ether, it's sort of like, oh yes, like I can logically see why all this makes sense. But like my actual chief concern is that I will have been naive to a problem that will then blindside me.
Right.
And so you're absolutely correct. Like and so maybe in some capacity, it's like my brain is like forcing me to be cynical because that is what gives me the ability to like preemptively have thought this could be a problem.
right.
I've actually, and it's funny too because it's almost like if I think of a worst case scenario and then it happens, that's bad, but also it would mean I was right, and
But it's still bad.
But it's still bad.
It's The Big Short. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's The Big Short. But so like I've literally thought about this before with because we're going to a Virginia Tech football game this weekend, and I have literally, when it comes to the Hokies, because they let me down all the time.
Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started, man. It's only one weekend and we're already just in the pits.
They've already done exactly what the Hokies do. But so
Yeah.
I have literally thought this before when it comes to Hokie football, which is that just bet against them every single time, because then at the very least, if they lose, I'll win the bet. And it's almost like it's worth it to me if they win to have just lost the money. It's like
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I'll put $10 against my own team, because then at the very least, if they lose, then I win.
Right.
But also like if they win and I only spent $10 for that, it's like worth it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because
this is my problem, is that I always go for game. I'm like, I'm not here for the countering, I'm here to win this moment. Like the best case scenario is that you bet on the Hokies to win and then they do.
And then you also have won the bet.
And then you win the bet and the game and you're happy in every direction.
Right. Yeah. So you're just like chips across the table, which makes total sense with the other conversation that we're having in the background at the exact same time, which is literally that like I think that I expect bad scenarios because if I expect them, then at least I was right about the situation. And
but then you still have to deal with the bad scenario.
Then you have to deal with the bad scenario, and you have to deal with like, and this is where like the other thing you said is like, does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's almost like you think something bad is coming, so then whenever the edges of the conversation like find their way to the surface or being spoken aloud, that you orient the conversation in such a way that nudges it in that direction as well. It's like all these like very subtle, like borderline subliminal like moments that could be happening.
Right, like you're like, because in your mind your desire to be right is outweighing the negative of the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see that. See, that's interesting. That's interesting. I can see that being a thing too. And I would say that like for the most part, I if I assume like things are probably just going to work out right, or like it probably isn't as bad as you think, like I am often aware of what like the worst case scenario would be, but I just don't think it's likely.
Sure.
So it's like, even if it happens, like I would be caught off guard and it would be bad and I would have been wrong about my interpretation. But in the meantime, I wouldn't have suffered.
And that's the thing, yeah. And like Newt Scamander has like such a good, like in my experience, worrying just means you suffer twice.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that quote and I was like, I'm going to take that to heart and that's going to be
that should be your tattoo.
I know, right? Yeah, worrying just means you suffer twice.
Just put that right here on my wrist.
Right.
Worrying means just, I don't hate that idea. That's not a bad one. Newt's such a good character.
Newt is a fantastic character. But it's true. Like this is the problem, is that like I fear the blind side so much that like my mind will work in overdrive so that I am prepared for that inevitable negative outcome. Like I can start like problem solving beyond like, okay, like let's think worst case scenario here. And it's like, and if that happens, then like what will I have to do? Okay, so like then I'll be able to like do this and that and this and that and this and that. But the problem is because I'm applying this exact same like logic to just every aspect of my life all the time, it means that my mind is like mentally solving problems that never come to fruition. And so it's like, but then you're just bogged down
right,
by
but then you've just spent a lot of energy working on that.
It's like my little Eeyore cloud. little dark thing floating above me all the time.
All right, welcome to Pooh and Eeyore.
You are wearing a red t-shirt.
I am, so I see thestrals, so I guess that means I've seen someone die today.
I guess today.
So. I have not seen someone. I do not wish to see someone die. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Not good.
Good save. Good save.
All right. I don't know how we got back onto Harry Potter all of a sudden. What was I going to say? Oh, you know what? We were talking about the lake. Let's circle back to the lake.
Okay, we'll circle back.
Okay. I was thinking about this past weekend. You and I got to do some water skiing while we were at the lake.
We did get to do some water skiing, which I had an interesting like tiny breakthrough this morning as like a small aside. I like hold on to your thought, please, because I don't want to derail it. But this was one of those things. I was talking to Alice is back in the gym, and so both of us were talking to our trainer Gabriel, and we were talking about like the like having a boat or whatever, and I guess maybe he didn't know that like we actually have one or whatever. He's like, oh my gosh, don't get a boat, like worst decision ever, like it's just gonna like bog you down, it's so much work. And I was like, well, I've got one. But it's one of those funny things where I know that Gabriel's relationship with like fitness has been in some capacity like inspired by having watched like the like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies or
Sylvester
Stallone, like a lot of like that era, just sort of like what it meant to be like fit and cool, and like, you know, like I think that like a lot of those like not to say, I mean, there's not like obvious extreme health reasons beyond also being fit that are like his larger priorities, but like I know that like those have been like inspirational images and characters and stuff for him that like help motivate him as he's like exercising and stuff like that.
Interestingly, I feel like his actual workout philosophy is like not even about looking massive. It's
so
very much about like just like staying healthy and like active movement for
longevity.
like longevity.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's so true. No, yeah, you're 100% correct. But so as we were talking about it this morning and talking about like the boat and stuff and water skiing, I was like, I remember growing up watching our dad do this and like thinking that was like the epitome of cool.
Yeah.
And so like it was almost like little gears sliding into place in my brain. It was like, that's, I think, like a huge portion of like what I've been trying to accomplish all this time. Like I knew dad got to grow up going to the lake on the same very boat that like we have today.
This boat.
Doing these things. And I remember like thinking he was so cool doing like all of like the water skiing stuff that like as we were like small children, like admiring that and like that becoming this beacon of like, ooh, that's what it means to be cool. And now as an adult, it's like my brain has never like let go of that. It was almost just like a marker that got placed. And it's like now as an adult, I need to become good at water skiing because that is what it means to be cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is interesting.
Yep.
It's a deep dive into my own brain. So anyway, we went water skiing.
Do you think parents have an influence on their children?
It seems so.
Yeah.
No pressure or anything.
Yeah, right. No big deal. Whatever. It's cool.
But yeah, so last weekend we went water skiing.
Yeah.
You started.
We went water skiing and I was visited by, if anyone who's ever done water skiing knows that the actual hardest part is just standing up out of the water.
Yeah, it's just like you're sitting in the water, skis on your feet, rope in your hands. You got to yell go when the person floors it, and you feel like you got hit by a truck.
Right. If you fall. So this was, as I was thinking about it though, I was like, this is my hot take this week. I think everyone should have to learn how to water ski.
Ooh.
Everyone.
I love it. But why?
But why? Here's why, Ben. Because there's no like training wheels for water skiing, right? Like that's not even true. There are
technically there are, and we own them, but
they are. Yeah, boy, we still own the skis I learned to water ski on. They're called Hobie Cats, and they've got like a little wooden connector that holds the skis together, so your feet don't like
they can't like spread or even go forward and back like French fries or pizza.
Right. It is like you've got your locked skis, so you have the thing to stand on. That's about all they can do. Like you can kind of go side to side. You're not going to be doing anything fancy on the Hobie Cats, but they're great for learning. Anyway, though, even with them, the fact of the matter is there's no way to get out of the water and up on the skis unless that boat is flooring it.
Yeah.
And there's also no way the learning process, I feel like, is something just everyone should have to go through because there's no way to learn to water ski that isn't really difficult the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no way around. Like you got to jump in the water next to the boat and you're going to be a little bit cold because the water's cold. And like the boat is going to be like idling and you're going to have that like motor smell like wafting around. You're like, you're going to have to put the skis in. You have to put the skis on in the water. And it's like they want to float and you don't want them to float. You're going to have to try and adjust the rubber things and they're not going to work under the water.
Yeah.
And
You're very by yourself in the experience. Like you're out there on the boat full of people and like, your friends and family are all there and they're all like, cheering you on, like rooting, like, best support system imaginable, but you're still, 30, 40 feet behind the boat by yourself in the cold water, struggling. And you're about, especially if it's like the first time you're ever doing it.
Yeah, which this would be because you're learning to water ski.
And so you have to be out there and at some point in time, you will yell to the driver, like hit it, like go. And that means like the full force of this boat is about to lunge you out of the, there's no like, okay, well, can we go slow? And it's like, no, you cannot go slow. Right. Because it doesn't work that way.
It's not like snow skiing where you can be like, let me just pizza down the bunny hill. It's like, there's no bunny hill for water skiing. You have to be going fast to get out of the water.
Yeah.
You have to get jerked out of the water by the boat. And the build up to it, especially the first time, like if I get in the water now, it's no problem putting the skis on. It's no problem grabbing the rope. Like none of that is like hard anymore. But the first time you do it, it's not fun. Like you're in the water and you're cold and you're bobbing around and the skis are floating around from you and they're like, you got to get the rope, and then you're trying to like work your way to get the line between the skis, and then you're nervous to say go, but of course you have to because that's why you're there. And you say it, and the boat is gonna take off, and you're gonna have to hold on tight.
Yep.
And like and everyone's giving you 1,000 pieces of advice, and all you can think is that this is I'm gonna fall. And you know what? You're gonna fall. Like,
it's true. Yeah.
I've never seen anyone get up their first time on water skis.
Right. Just like whoop, whoop. But
and that what's gonna happen then? You're gonna have to do it all over again because those skis are coming right off.
oh yeah, total yard sale every time.
Yeah.
But the good news is that it's like when you get up, it's like reaching the top of a mountain.
Yes.
Except like the thing is that like the first few times are going to be difficult. You probably aren't going to be successful in your first few times, and it's probably going to take a little bit of like gumption just to even be willing to try it a handful of times.
Yes.
Because you're going to have to go through this entire process by yourself in the cold water each time. That being said, though, it's like when you get up and you realize you can do it, it's like things start clicking into place so fast. And then it's like literally the very next time, you're not going to struggle as much to get up at all because it's like, you know what it feels like now to stand.
Yeah.
And it's like, everything just starts to like, it starts to like fit together. And it's so true that you say it like this because like, I know that it's an experience that I remember when I was a kid going for the first time, and I remember at this age the pure terror that I had associated with doing this. And it wasn't just me doing it. This would be like if you were out there behind the boat, like I was like crying into mom's lap as a small child because I was like, Jonathan is going to hurt himself out there, and this is not okay, and are we just going to watch this happen? And like, it was like I was so like scared on your behalf to think that I don't know if it was the same day or maybe it was like the next year or something like that I would be the one in the water getting ready to do it. Was like there was nothing that was going to get me to do that. And so I remember mom had to bribe me with 10 Reese's cups.
Yeah.
That was like the deal. So I got to go to the store and get 10 bars of candy in exchange for giving it an honest go. But what that meant for me as a kid, and I think even like sort of like the relationship that I had with overcoming my fears, is so much more that's involved with exactly what we're talking about right now to me than it is like me trying to tell you like, oh, if you can water ski, you'll be cool. It's like that. It's really not it. It's just a good example of a situation where you can see something that could be scary. You can have the opportunity to overcome that fear, and then also gain the additional confidence that comes from overcoming a fear.
Exactly. Because it's like at the end of the, it might take you a few tries to get up. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people go out there and fall time and time again. But the thing is, like, you learn so much every single time the boat pulls you, I think. And I feel like we've also tried to teach everyone on the boat that we have now, and it has functioned at varying levels of optimal efficiency even this past weekend.
It's 47 years old.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's definitely not primo by any stretch of the imagination.
But like, here's the thing. You can water ski. You can do it.
Ugh,
and
so proud of you in advance.
I'm so proud of you in advance just for being in the water and putting those skis on. But you can do it. But it's like the act of learning to water ski, I feel like is such a good, you can do, like, because it's so uncomfortable and because like there's no like training wheels, really.
Yeah.
Like, you could even if you have the other skis, whatever, you're still going to get pulled by the boat.
Right. That's true. Like the environmental circumstances are always going to be what they're going to be.
Yeah. That's all going to happen. And like, but you can do it. It's not like it is hard, but it's certainly not too hard.
Yeah.
And I think going through all that struggle and getting up and realizing like, oh, seeing the top of the mountain is like, I just feel like everyone should have to learn to water ski.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So maybe at CastleCon, what we'll do is in the moat, we'll just have a boat that's just doing laps.
I'm so glad you mentioned moats, Ben.
Okay.
You listed a list of thought-provoking questions in the last pop that we did.
Uh-huh.
And I was looking at them today, and one of them stuck out to me, and it said, how is a moat filled with water? And I was like, how is a moat filled with water?
It's a very good question.
Like, where'd the water come from?
Or like, how did they go about building like a large stone structure on land that was so adjacent to water that it was able to support the massive heavy stone structure.
Exactly. Like, because like a lot of times you think of a moat, it's like, yeah, this is like a river that you man-made built between your castle and other people. So either you're right next to the water, or you had to, because they didn't have I don't think they had like hoses, right? Probably
not
in castle time.
Not in castle time. I'm
imagining some sort of like aqueduct system.
I think that's probably a reasonable conclusion. Is some type of like
aqueduct, windmill, watermill,
or some kind of like I suppose there's probably a circumstance where there could be natural groundwater that could be like tapped into, kind of like in the same way like naturally formed like ponds typically have like a clay liner.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like I call it a liner, but it's the ground, but it is like impervious enough that it is able to like, hold water.
Right.
Alternatively, I could see a scenario where like if you have enough manpower to dig the moat, then if there's like a nearby like creek,
you got a lot of buckets.
You got a lot, like a nearby creek. I have a feeling you could probably redirect the creek and have it pour into the moat, which would then that's how. So the very lake we were out at last weekend is a man-made lake. And basically what they did was they sort of just like
turned on a garden hose.
They turned on a garden hose, yeah, and they just filled it for like a few days. And voila, we have a lake. No, they like the river flows into like this one particular area. There was one obvious place you could put a dam. Once the dam was there, the water just basically rises until at that point in time, you don't have.
And then you let out the water at your own discretion to make power for everyone.
Exactly, that's how lakes work.
Yeah,
man-made lakes at least. But. Yeah, that's largely what I would have to imagine is that like it's not clever. Like it's people who are being smart with the environmental resources.
I suppose if you have the money to build and live in a castle in these times, you probably have the resources to hire someone who knows how to fill a moat.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially and probably.
Mm-hmm.
Although, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like over the past several years when Alice and I were traveling to Puerto Rico. It's a place. There is a very early base that was built in San Juan that has these they are like 75-foot stone walls that are just like sheer, and I'm like, how? Like this has been here since the year 1522, I think, because I think they were still here, and it's but that means they were celebrating their 500-year anniversary of this fort, and it's like that means that in 1522 they were building this. Like this is impressive.
You can't let anything slow you down.
I know. I mean, anyway, I just
as far as they were concerned, like the future is now.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Like let's do the thing nobody's ever done before.
Yeah.
We continue to do that to this day.
Indeed.
Things like water skiing.
Yeah.
Being tugged behind a boat. Anyway, that's my best explanation as to how a moat is filled. My suspicion is that there are no circumstances where anybody has ever like filled it with like buckets or just like slowly like took water from one place.
You say that, but then you watch those like YouTube videos where it's like a guy building
like a swimming pool.
Like a swimming pool out of the dirt that he found, and and it's just like that's what he does. He just goes and gets a cup and walks to the river and walks back until he filled up the whole thing.
Those make the best viral videos, except I'm sure that anybody who's listening has seen at least one of them once ever, but usually it seems like some area that could be like a potentially like third world country or something like that, and they're like literally using sticks and like handmade pots and stuff to like dig the holes and like carve in all these features, and then literally like carrying water from one location into the other so that you have like a clear pool of water that they can like then swim around in and stuff. And it's like, this is amazing. Like I would love to travel here and swim in that pool, except for the fact that there is no filtration in those things.
Yeah.
Meaning it's like all that work to get the shot and then like that's it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
now that water's gross.
That water will not last more than like maybe 5 to 7 days before like it becomes like infested with like mosquito larvae or something.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, it's cool you did that.
I know. Yeah. It's just like there's not a whole lot of like longevity to it, but maybe this is like the way that like third world countries and stuff have figured out how to like interact with social media. It's like, hey, this is a great revenue source for us. We'll just get all those viral views. Boom, bam.
That's it.
Let's go make another one. Even bigger this time. Anyway, guys, as ever, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any feedback for the show, you can send it on over to popcornculturepod@gmail.com. As we said at the beginning of the episode, we have so many updates going on over at Patreon. If you would like to get in on the Q3 merch, which is going to be a commemorative challenge coin that I do think that comes with just a little extra intrigue, if you will. You just have to look carefully at it.
Yeah.
That is available at patreon.com/popcornculture and will be available up until the last day of the month of September, which I'm trying to remember. That's 30 days in September. So September 30th.
Yeah.
As long as you sign up between now and then, you will be eligible for that challenge coin. Again, patreon.com/popcornculture. But otherwise, until next time.
Pop, pop.